Welcome back to Social Media Journalism. This is Professor Robert Quigley to talk about breaking news, one of the most important things we could do with social media. As you can see from this photo right here, these guys have smartphones and they're taking photos and probably video as well. And if you haven't recognized that this has changed the game of news, you're missing out. People are going to record what's going on at an event before a journalist can get there. And smart journalists who know how to find that information, how to contact those people, how to verify what you have, and how to share that stuff are definitely going to be ahead of the game. And the world has changed. The power to report is in the hands of the many, and that's a good thing. But how can a journalist be useful these days? Well, we can help bring the good content to light by organizing that information, adding context, verifying what's happening, and then sharing it with our larger audience. With so much content out there, who can people trust? Well, the answer to that is journalists. At least I hope so. Especially if you're very active on social media and you're very careful in what you do, they will help. They will turn to you when they need help. So here's a video from Egypt from the revolution as well. This was taken by a man with a smartphone sitting in his hotel room. He happened to catch an important moment. He was one of dozens and dozens of YouTube videos that were posted in the immediate time frame of the start of that revolution. And so smart news organizations like Al Jazeera, CNN, NBC were looking through YouTube trying to find good information and then verifying that this is, real, not something from some other event, and then sharing it with their audiences. We just didn't have this capability not that long ago. You had to have a journalist on the ground before you could get any picture into the world for the community. Now you can just find that information from people through social media. And here's something from my own past. When I was at the Statesman, Hurricane Ike came through in the fall 2008. And we had a meeting with the photographers and reporters who were going to the scene before they left. And I gave them a login and password to this Twitter account called Tracking Ike. You have to remember in 2008, Twitter was by no means established. But I asked them to post updates from the field as they were there. And then back here in Austin, I was also working in the same account, sharing links to our stories and updates from the National Hurricane Center, that kind of thing. Well, as they were, right after the storm hit, as they were crossing the causeway into Galveston, some really great updates came from our reporters on that Twitter account. In fact, the New York Times lead blog linked to this Twitter account and said, this is the place to get the latest news from the hurricane. We were also linked to from the LA Times and from CNN and several other places. And so it became a really valuable tool. And I think this was one of those moments in the newsroom where we all said, whoa, this is actually more than just a fad or something like that. This is an important thing for journalism. All right, and here's from the first Fort Hood shootings in 2009. I was, I jumped on Twitter and tried to aggregate the breaking news and tell the story of what's going on the best I could. It happened to come at a time when our website was down. It went down about an hour before the shootings happened, and we were fortunate to have some way to get news out. We also had a blog platform we were using, but Twitter was our main way, I think, for at least a while. As you can see, I was retweeting KXAN. I have no problem with aggregating from other sources if they have the news. I was using the Associated Press. I was asking the crowd for help. It seemed I got a story tip about Fort Hood. Send us a note. And so I think you do all you can to try to tell a story as things are unfolding, but you need to be very, very careful, and you should be very sensitive in what you're doing as well, especially when you're in a situation like this where it's a tragedy. You don't want to just post something that's incorrect, and you don't want to come across as too brash or uncaring, because that's just not what we want to represent ourselves as. And this is from a plane crash in 2010. This plane crashed into an Austin building. It was a guy who was angry at the government and decided to commit suicide by flying a plane into the IRS building. When it happened, I found out about it from Twitter. We got, our newsroom mobilized to go out and cover the breaking news, but as our reporters and photographers were still, going out to the parking lot to get into their cars, I was gathering content because there's a lot of people in that area and they all had a lot of smartphones. And so I was asking, did you witness the plane crash? Call our reporter. He got dozens of phone calls, including several that he used in his stories, including in print. I was retweeting people who had photos from the scene. I was giving updates on what we had at the time. I was searching through Twitter based on hashtags, trying to find people who were there and asking them to call our reporter. And I was asking for photos. And I was also retweeting the news as well. I have no problem, like I said, of retweeting others. Early on in the process, I did get this photo right here. Usually when you hear about a small plane crash at a newspaper, it turns out it's somebody flipped upside down in a farm field or something like that. When we saw this photo, we realized we had a big story on our hands. I mean, this looks pretty devastating. And I remember people gathering around behind my desk looking at this Twitter photo and saying, whoa, and kind of like everything kind of boosted up in the newsroom after that. We got much more into a breaking news mode. The next photo I got here was from a Twitter user that I found through a search. I @replied him and asked him if I could use the photo, which I think is good practice. And he agreed, and we led our website with it for hours, and it ended up in the print edition as well. It was the only photo we had with the actual flames in it. By the time our photographers got there, there was just smoke at that point. And so to have something that immediate from the scene was actually very useful in telling the story. As you can see here, here's a photo by a famous photographer. Look at that credit there. What happened here was I was in class and knew that this protest was going to happen right outside the CMA. And so after class, I went out there and snapped this photo with my iPhone. And I posted it on Twitter, and it took off. People were retweeting it quite a bit. And this is actually from a website that I don't think exists anymore. It was a news website. But they didn't ask my permission before they used the photo. They just used it, and they led their website with it. And I sent them a professorly note saying, hey, you should have asked for permission. But then I allowed it anyway. But I think it's just good practice to do that. So here's what you do if big breaking news happens. Search through the networks by keyword for the event and find out what's going on. Don't retweet everything you're seeing, but definitely look through it and see what's out there. Definitely ask for help from your community. As you saw from my examples, I actually said a couple times, does anybody know what's going on? Send us a note or give our reporter a call. There's nothing wrong with doing that. News organizations are only so large. Even the biggest ones can't cover everything, especially during an unfolding situation like this. As I've said a couple times now, ask for permission before you use any photos or video or other content. But be the source of timely and accurate news. Tell readers how you know something and why you believe it. Make it very transparent and clear what you have and why you have it. They're going to trust you a whole lot more. Definitely use hashtags. That's a way to get our content out there beyond just the people who follow us. I think this is important even in non-breaking news situations. So if you are really into sports and you're watching a Rangers game and you're tweeting about it, use that Rangers hashtag. There are people who just hang out on those hashtags all day long. They're more likely to follow you. They're more likely to see your information and interact with you as well. Main thing is be very careful and sensitive in breaking news situations. It's much better to be right than fast, and I think it's better to be sensitive than insensitive. So play it smart, and if in doubt, don't do it. All right, that's it for breaking news. Here's some breaking news for you. You have a quiz due.